Hey everyone. So I realized that week two's workshop was a bit too fast for everyone. I do apologize for that. And in order to make up for that, what I had decided is to come up with a 3-part video tutorial series in which we will be going over whatever we went through in week two's workshop. The way these videos are divided is basically in 3 parts. The first part, we will be covering how to get set up, which will basically involve cloning down week two's code and just starting the code so that we have the environment up and ready for our development phase. Part 2 will focus on building the front end using React as our front end framework and using Semantic UI as our UI framework. And part 3, we will focus on basically amending our server side, so in order to make our applications real time. So without any further ado, let's get started. So what I'm going to do right now is just go to Chrome and open up GitHub, and I'm just going to go to my repository, which is dev-workshop-public. I will be providing the link for this repository in the description. So what I want you to do is just to hit the clone button right here and copy the URL for the GitHub repository. Now what I'm going to do is just open up VS Code, and I'm just going to press Ctrl tilde to open up terminal inside VS Code. The shortcut should be the same on Windows as well. I'm quickly going to cd into desktop because that is where I'm going to be cloning my repository. Now I'm going to just say git clone, and I'm just going to paste in the URL for the repository and just press enter. And this should clone down the repository onto my machine, and we're done. Awesome. So now I'm just going to press Command O, Windows it should be Control O, to open up a folder inside VS Code. I'm just going to open up the dev folder. As you can see, we only have a README file over here, and if you open up terminal again, that is because if I type in git branch, we are on the master branch right now, but we want week two's code. So what we're going to do is just check out that branch. The way we do that is just by saying git checkout week 2, and now we have the week 2 branch set up as well. And if we just quickly say git branch, you can see that we are on week 2 branch. So now you can see that we have the server folder in here. So what I want you to do is just to cd into the server folder. Now before we go on to the next step, just open up that folder, and you can see that we have a server.js file over here. Just open that up. There are a couple of things that we would like to change in here just to get set up really quickly. So first of all, later on when we start developing in React, the way React is set up is that app also listens on port 3000, which means that these two ports will kind of clash. So in order to avoid that, what we're going to do is just change the value of this port from 3000 to something else like 8080, so that our apps will now listen on port 8080. So instead of localhost :3000, our apps will be deployed on localhost 8080. The next thing is that since I've just cloned down the repository, the value for the dbconnect string is an empty string. So in order to fill that up, all I want you to do is go to your browser, open up MongoDB, just log into your account real quick. And once you're on your dashboard, you can see this connect button right over here. Just press on that. Just click on the second option, which is connect your application, and this will provide you with the connect string right over here. Just copy that, and we can now paste that in our code. Just make sure to change this value with whatever including the brackets as well. So essentially this value with whatever your password is to connect to that DB. And we do want to add one more middleware before this middleware, the body parser middleware, gets fired. And I will explain why we need that middleware in more detail once we go down into React development. But just to give you a brief idea, what the middleware will do is will basically allow our server to be connected with our front end. And the way we can enable that is just by saying app.use, which basically means that we want this particular middleware to be used. And we want a callback function which has 3 parameters. The first one is a request parameter, the next one is a response parameter, and the last one is a next parameter. And we are going to just make our arrow function right over here. And now I'm just going to add some headers to our response, and these will make a lot more sense once I actually write down the code. So for now, just follow me. Just write down res.header. We want to add a header. The first header that we want to add is the access control dash allow origin, and we want to set that to star. So it's basically the name of the header and the value of the header, which is separated by a comma. So what this will allow us is to connect our server with all, that is what the star signifies, with requests from all origins. The next header we want to add is the access control allow headers, and the value that we want to pass in here is the content type header. So if you remember, then while we were making requests to our server side, we want to specify what kind of content we will be passing, and that is specified through the content type header. And again, this will make much more sense once we actually get on to making the requests in our React code, but we want to allow that. So this is what this line of code will allow us to do that. And the last header what we want to add is the access control allow methods, and we can specify a list of HTTP methods that we want to allow our clients to make to our server. So for now, we're just going to have the get and post methods to be allowed. Awesome. So we now have allowed a bunch of things to be used by our clients that our clients can take advantage of while making requests to our server. The last thing we want to do in this method is just to call the next method itself. And what this will do is it will make sure that the program goes on in execution. So this will make sure that the program now goes on to the next middleware. And the next middleware in line is the body parser.json. So make sure that you call the next method right over here, which is very important, so that our program continues to execute. And it will call the body parser middleware right after this thing is done. Now just let's quickly check whether everything is working or not. So I'm just going to clear up the terminal by just saying Command K, and I'm just going to say node, making sure that I'm in the server folder. Node space server.js, and pressing tab will basically autocomplete for you as well. And let's see if everything works. So cannot find module mongoose. Oh, and the reason for that is that we have not installed our dependencies yet, and that's a very important thing to do. So what I'm going to do is just cd back, and the two dots signify up one directory, into the dev workshop public folder, and I'm just going to run npm install. And what this will do is it will basically install, it should install all our dependencies. Oh, it's in the server folder itself. So now what I'm going to do is just run npm install inside the server folder where the package.json file lives, in order to install all the dependencies for our server from the package.json file. And let's just give it a second. And yes, all the dependencies have now been installed. Just going to clear the terminal once, and let's just see whether our code works or not. So node space server.js. Let's press enter. Great. So now we are listening on port 8080, and we are also connected to the DB. And that's it for the setup video. I will see you all in the next video, where we will start building our front end in React.